Welcome back to the expert interview series here at the Business Acquisition Summit. Now, do you know anyone that's worked with Sir Elton John or Elon Musk? Maybe someone who's sent people down to the wreck of the Titanic or closed down museums in Florence in order for a private dinner party to happen while Andrea Bocelli serenades you? Well, you do now. Quoted as the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine, Steve Sims is a best-selling author, sought-after coach, and top-rated keynote speaker who's spoken at a variety of networks, groups, and associations, including the Pentagon and Harvard. His two books are BLUEFISHING, The Art of Making Things Happen, and Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. Steve, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So I know I just gave you a quick little synopsis there, but could you start off by telling, I know you got an incredible life story, so maybe share a little bit about where you come from and how you got here.
It's no different to anyone else. I know I've got a sexy accent, which funny enough is only sexy in America. It's not so sexy when you live in East London. But I grew up as a curious, aggravated kid, trying to work out, how come some people seem to have it easy? How come the grass was greener over there? I was quite a pissed off child. And I went on a journey to try and find out how come they could do it and I couldn't. I knew how to work hard. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the building site, get shit on for the day and come home at 8. So I knew how to work hard, but I wasn't working smart. And of course, I didn't have YouTube or Instagram to show me how inadequate my life was. So I went out to have conversations. And it was a very early thing that as a doorman of a nightclub, because, for any of you that are listening to this podcast and not able to see it, I was born a big, ugly fella. So I was perfect for working on the door and riding around on motorcycles. So being big and scary, it was a natural thing to work on the door. But I very quickly learned that entrepreneurs, and I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. Let's be serious. Back in the 80s and 90s, if you were an entrepreneur, it meant that you couldn't get a real job and you were looked down on. It's funny how the rock stars of the 80s and 90s were rock stars. The rock stars today are Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, people like that. So it's completely changed. But we were very repressed and oppressed as entrepreneurs. But entrepreneurs see things differently. It's like the Matrix, and we've ate the right pill. We see opportunity while everyone's crying in their porridge. So when I was working on the door, I suddenly got to see, I got a PhD and an MBA in human interaction. And I got to see those people that pretended they had money and didn't, and those people that really had money and how they connected, and those people after that money, how they acted. And it was really clever. So I started going up to these people that had money, going, hey, are you going to this new nightclub? And of course, because I'm working on the door, I knew where all the new nightclubs were. And again, this was before Google. So people were like, oh, I didn't know about it. And I'd be like, let me see if I can get you in. And I would get them into that club and then have coffee with them the following day going, did you have a good time? You did great. Oh, by the way, I've been meaning to ask you, how did you make your money? Oh, what business are you in? Oh, how did you get into that? And I openly believed that in the 90s, I was podcasting before there was a podcast. I was just interviewing. And of course, I went from getting people into nightclubs, getting them into, major suites at hotels, getting them into premieres, getting them into fashion shows. And where I was getting people in got bigger and bigger based on the people that I was dealing with. So all of a sudden, I'm at the Monaco Grand Prix, I'm at Stade Cartier Polo, I'm at Goodwood Festival of Speed, I'm at the Grammys, I'm at the Oscars. I literally would just roll around the planet, getting people into things just so I could have that conversation and find out, how come you're filthy rich and I'm not? And that was my first mistake. I asked that question. How come you're rich and I'm not? And that was another, they always say, what is your pivotal point? As though there's one. The fact is there's millions. You could have a pivotal point now and just not be, listening to this podcast could be one of your pivotal points. As Joe Polish likes to call them, they're your dominoes. Those little dominoes that just fall to get you in a different line. I used to go up to rich people and say, hey, how come you're so rich? Now, the problem is, if I ask you how rich you are, you straight away think about money, don't you? It's a monetary question. What's your stock portfolio? How come you're so rich? You know, how much you got in your bank account? You know, it's a daft question. And I realized I wasn't getting the right answer. So Jay Abraham told me years later, to get an amazing answer, ask an amazing question. And I was asking the wrong question. How come you're so rich and I'm not? And I wasn't getting a good answer. So then I started saying to people, how come you're so wealthy and I'm not? And tweak it, because wealth is different to money. It's different to being rich. But then I was getting things like, well, I found God, and oh, I started to meditate, and I met my wife, and now I have kids. And I'm thinking, well, that's no use. I'm not going to marry your wife and have your kids. So that doesn't freaking help me. It wasn't anything actionable. And I wanted someone to go, turn left, turn right, and put one foot. I wanted that actionable step. So then again, I rephrased the question. This took probably about 3 or 4 years for me to just keep tweaking this question. And then I used to go up to people and I'd be like, you know, hey, what are you doing? Or I'd say, hey, I've got a question for you. How come you're so successful and so many others are not? And that was the thing. As soon as I started asking people about that success, how do you view success? Would you say you're successful? What does success mean to you? Then I started getting into people's goal achievement part of their head. And they started giving me steps, and they started telling me about how they view time and how they view relationships. So I was getting all of this information, and then quite simply getting this information, I would walk out the door and I'd start implementing it. I would start treating people the way successful people treated people. I would handle time the way successful people handle time. Because when you're poor, you don't have a lot of money, but what for shit do you have a lot of? Time. Successful people, they don't have a lot of time. So they have a different relationship with time. So by just changing the way you reframe and use time, you suddenly start acting, thinking, and behaving like successful people before you've got the bank account. And then it's the funny thing, it's the knock on, it's the reverse. Nobody got slim by buying a diet book. They got slim by actioning it, you know? So by me actioning these steps of being a successful person, I became successful. And that's how it's grown. And then in 2000 and, oh, what was it, 14, someone said to me, oh, you should write a book. Because by that time, sadly, and I mean sadly, I was getting a lot of media attention because I was the guy that was hanging out with Elton John and Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and doing all of this crazy shit. And I was getting, but I didn't want that. I never set out to set up this concierge business. Couldn't give a rat's chuck about going down a red carpet. I really didn't care. I just wanted to find out, how come you're successful and what have I got to do to make myself successful? And so as my business was getting more and more kind of, oh, he did this at the Oscars, he did this at the Grammys, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's the real life Wizard of Oz that Forbes called me. As that was happening, I got asked, would you release a book? And I was like, never known how to do it, never done it. Now, I've never allowed my inability to get in the way of me trying something. So I went, sure, I know loads of authors, I'll ask. And I released BLUEFISHING, the Art of Making Things Happen, thinking, oh, well, this will sell 10 copies. You know, no one will give a shit. Got translated, I think, into 8 languages, became a bestseller all over the planet. And all of a sudden, I'm getting contacted by major corporations, universities, the Pentagon, going, hey, can you come in and talk to us about communication, delivering a wow, showing up as you, true authenticity, all of this guy. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is stupid shit that everyone should be doing. But today, especially with social platforms, we hide behind a veil of who we want people to think we are. We pretend, we put on a costume, we put on a suit of armor when we get nervous. And no one just shows up and calls it as they see it. And me, this roughneck biker from East London, I'm now teaching people how to be authentic and communicate. My wife and family still find it hysterical, but that's where I am today.
I love that. Yeah, it's an incredible journey, and something that sticks out to me is those early days of working the doors and leading with value, getting people into cool parties, clubs like that to sort of open up that relationship. But there's plenty of people that they do that favor, or they make a connection, but they don't know how to continue building a relationship, communicating in a clear way, learning how to continue adding value. What do you think it was about you that you kind of were able to parlay some of these opportunities into something bigger?
So I'm very selfish. And your reaction there was like everyone in the planet. You laugh at it because we're taught by our mummies and daddies that being selfish is a bad thing, aren't we? Don't, share your sweets. Don't hold on to your toys. Don't be selfish. We're taught from a very, very young age that being selfish is a negative. It is a bad thing. But when was the last time you were on a plane?
Recently, maybe in the
Recently.
last few months, yeah.
Okay. When the steward starts doing that kind of like, hey, in the case of an emergency, an oxygen mask drops down, when was the last time you heard him say, please put that oxygen mask on someone else first? Don't be selfish and then look after you. When was the last time you heard him say that?
Yeah, never. They always say put it on first yourself.
Exactly. You can't look after anyone if you're not looking after yourself. So for me, I was constantly trying to get better and better at knowledge for myself. And I needed to know that. So it was that constant, I want this. And if I want it, I've got to give you something because I know that's how to get your attention. The one thing the successful, wealthy, and rich people do not care about is money. Poor people care about money. If someone's got no money and they say, hey, will you do this for $100? Absolutely. You go up to Elton John and go, hey, will you do this for $100? What do you think his answer is going to be? If you go up to him and you go, hey, will you do this for $100,000? What do you think? His answer's still not going to be, he's still going to be no, because he made that amount of money while he was on the toilet. Successful people don't care about money. They care about impact, experiences, legacy. They care about different things. And you need to recognize that. And I realized that if I'm having a conversation with someone that's successful, I've got to contribute to them in order to keep them contributing to me. And it's a really stupid thing. Let me play a game with you. Have you ever heard of the barbecue game?
No.
So Saturday night, I'm having a barbecue at my house here in Los Angeles. And I say to you, all right, then, Michael, come over to my barbecue. What's the first question you have?
What can I bring?
Bingo. You would be surprised at how many people say, well, where is it? Who's going to be there? Are there going to be celebrities? Can I take photographs? What do I have to wear? Can I bring a mate? And all those kind of things. Well, those are all questions that help them. But imagine if every time you got into a relationship, every time you got into a conversation, the first thing that you thought was, what can I bring to this party? So it doesn't matter, like you. Let me pick on you for a second. We don't know each other. I know we do. But let's say, for sake, I don't know you, okay? But I'm in a party and you've got a podcast and I've got a book, okay? And I want people to buy my book. And why shouldn't they? It's a great book. But I want to be able to distribute my book. And I know that you've got a podcast, one of the top podcasts out there, okay? If I start walking towards you, for a start, I'm like, 5'11", big ugly biker, and I'm walking at you. I've got my old fashioned in my hand, and I'm walking at you. What's the first thing going through your mind as I'm walking towards you?
I don't know. I would say, who is this guy? What does he want?
Okay, apprehension, confusion. You've got those questions. You think of the celebrities, you think of successful people, you think of impactful people. They're also doing the same. But what is the one thing that you can guarantee that is about to happen? The one thing you can guarantee, I'm walking towards you. What can you guarantee is coming up?
A conversation?
About?
You've got something on your mind.
Bingo. And that's the thing. If I phone you up at 9 o'clock tonight, before you pick up the phone, before you know who it is, you can guarantee one thing: I want something. Okay. It doesn't matter if it's your mom. It doesn't matter if it's your next door neighbor. It doesn't matter if it's a partner, girlfriend, wife, whatever. They phoned you, so they want something. It may be to natter. It may be to check up on you. It may be to sell you insurance, but they want something because they've got something on their mind. If I'm walking towards you, you're perplexed, you're confused, you don't know what I want, but you now know that if he's walking across the room to talk to me, he wants something. So now, in today's economy, you're on guard, aren't you? Because aren't all of those feelings negative? So I run up to you and I go, hey, Michael, and I do this, listen to it word by word. Hey, Michael, you don't know me, but my name's Steve Sims. Straight away, it calms you down because you don't, we all go to networking parties. We all bump into people. We can't bloody remember their names. And we're sitting there going, did I meet that guy? Do I know that person? Have I slept with that person? There's all these questions going through your head, but you don't know. So I've said to you, hey, Michael, you don't know me. My name is Steve Sims. But I have been listening to your podcast, and I will say it's exceptional. Now, with all podcasts, the one thing you need is a good guest. And the second thing you need is great distribution. I've got a couple of friends of mine which are absolutely fantastic that would help your show. And I'd actually be happy to actually promote your show to my network. Would that be of benefit to you, Michael? Now,
Yeah, sounds great.
What are you going to say?
Yeah, it sounds great.
How does that help me?
It may not help you initially.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But what's going through your head now?
I'm seeing you as someone who's bringing a benefit to my life versus asking for something.
Yeah. And so what is subconsciously going through your head while I'm helping you?
I'm saying probably that this person's a person of value.
Yeah. And you're eventually going to get to the, how can I help this wonderful guy that's bringing so much value to me? How can I help him? So that's what it is. In today's relationship economy, you've got to get into a relationship. That's easy, but then you've got to stay there and start building up a credibility bank. And that's where you go, hey, Michael, you've got a podcast. I got some, hey, I was talking to my buddy the other day and he's looking for a guest. Would you like to be a guest on his show? Hey, I know someone is running an event near you and they need a speaker on building up relationships. Would you like me to? And I'm doing all of this for you. And you're like, bloody hell, this is great. And then one day I turn around to you, oh, by the way, Michael, I don't know if I mentioned it. I've got a book coming out. And what are you going to do? You're going to fall over back. Let me get you on my podcast to promote the book. Let me help you. Please. You're almost begging to let me help you. So when you actually start building up that Rolodex of impactful, powerful people, just keep nurturing it. Keep nurturing. And you don't even have to be involved in it. Here's a little tip and trick for you, okay? When you've got people that, and I do this, when I've got people that I meet or people that I've started to build up a relationship with, I tag them. And that means I tag them under certain categories. All of these people here, when I went out with them, they wouldn't drink an old fashioned with me because they love red wine. When I said about, hey, should we go for a motorbike ride this weekend? They were like, hell no, we like cars. In fact, we like vintage cars, And actually, I don't even like to go out because I like gardening. And you start making a note in whatever CRM, Exchange, Microsoft Outlook, whatever it is, you start making a note of those and you tag them. And then what you do is you look up magazines that look after that hobby. Now, magazines is a dying business. When was the last time you bought a magazine? It's just not happening, is it? So what you do is you contact the magazine. You go, look, I've got 10 clients and I want a 10 subscription discount. Now, most magazines will give you a 40% discount just by signing up. So now what you've got is you've got a magazine that's going to be delivered to them 3 to 4 times a year on that particular hobby, gardening, vintage cars, red wine connoisseurs, all of these kind of things. And then you contact your friend and you go, hey, Michael, last time we were out, I noticed that you like red wine. And you actually were saying some things that was quite interesting. I don't like red wine. And I found this really cool magazine called, Wine Connoisseur. I subscribed you. So you're going to be receiving that magazine just as a way of saying thank you. Now, every quarter, and this happens, every quarter, that magazine lands on our doorstep. And when it lands on their doorstep, who are they thinking of?
Yeah, who are they thinking of?
Yeah. Every single quarter, I get a text, just a random text, and I know magazine's just landed.
Yeah.
And it's triggered you to think about me. And there's nothing better. So I have outsourced my way of staying in contact with them by subscribing them to cheap-ass magazines. And then I'm able to they contact me and go, hey, Steve, I was just thinking about you. Of course you were. You just got the freaking magazine. And I go, hey, Bill, we haven't spoken for ages. In fact, here's the scoop. Let me give you my Calendly link. Let's make sure we have a Zoom call, and we jump on a face. How's it going? In fact, let's do it at 5 o'clock. You pour your wine. I'll get my old fashioned. Let's have a drink. And I do that, and quite often I will end up having a 5 o'clock with a drink or at lunch or something like that and have a little conflab, tell a couple of inappropriate jokes, those kind of things, and just keep in that relationship. Getting a relationship today is one thing. Keeping it is everything. So if it can value you, again, get selfish. If it can impact you, if it can benefit you, stay in contact.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. You just triggered a memory for me. I remember this is probably a few years back. I heard one of your podcasts back in the day, and you were talking about some of those advanced communication techniques. And one of them was grab some envelopes if you stay in a nice hotel, send people letters from those envelopes. Just little stuff like that is so interesting and important, and it stands out, and it's clear that it's a powerful communication tool in a world that's so digitized, it's so transactional. I know you also talk about, something that can get in the way of building those relationships and communication, which is the big C word, just confusion.
Yeah.
What do you, how do you avoid being confusing, when you're trying to communicate that value and who you are as a person and how you built those relationships?
So we just had this little thing called COVID, which disrupted the human race. Okay. And we were already pretty bad at communicating and even worse at connecting before COVID. We started outsourcing our conversations with MySpace and Friendster, and it just got worse. And what would happen was, and I'm not glorifying the old days, but in the old days, you had a baby, you phoned up your mates, you all came over, you drank a bit of whiskey, smoked a cigar, looked at the baby and went, yeah, it's a baby. And that was it. Okay. Now you have a baby, and before you've left the hospital, there's some picture on your Facebook postings. And if you don't get 2 million hits, you're pissed off. Who cares? It's your baby. Why should you try to get validation from people that quite simply you don't know? So we've become really, really bad at communicating and really bad at connecting. And then COVID came along and just went, well, you're pretty shit at it, so I'm not going to let you get out. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, I can't go out. I can't go to the bar. And then when we did finish COVID, people were going down to the coffee shops and they were standing in line quiet. If you honestly want to look like a mass murderer, try to strike up a conversation with someone in the line at Starbucks. Hey, how you doing today? How's your day? And they'll be like, who are you? Are you weird? No, I'm a human being trying to connect with another fucking human being. And that's what it is. And here's the dumb thing. We're really bad at connecting, but we're human beings. We only have a couple of instinctive drives in us. One is to protect ourselves and our family. That's why when you walk past a bush and it rustles at night, you kind of get all alarmed. That's an instinctive reaction to keep you alive. And the other one is to get to be part of a community that can look after you and you can feel safe. That's why communities, Facebook groups. That's why all of these things are very important. I have one called Sims Distillery. You know, that's why it's so important for human beings to connect, because when we connect, we can feel safe and we can grow. Now, today, we're scared of showing up who we are. We want to see the real people, but we're petrified of showing who we actually are, in case you don't like it, or in case it triggers you, or in case I say something that's not woke and pissed you off. And what happens is you post these things on the internet and you become a pseudo version of you. Now, you pointed it out quite well. There's the big C in business today, and it's confusion. Okay? Let me explain it to you. There are 3 groups of people in the planet. And there's no more. There's just 3. And it's very, very easy to identify who they are. Regardless of what you identify as, there's 3 groups in the freaking world. There's one group of people in the planet that love you. They love what you're saying. They love your tempo. They love your energy. They love everything you've got to say. They cannot help it. You could be going to the toilet and they would love you. They just absolutely adore you instinctively. The other end of the spectrum, there are those people that just hate you. I don't like his haircut. I don't like his voice. I don't like what he's saying. I don't like the way he's saying. I just hate this guy. On this podcast now, your podcast, your tribe, there was one set of people there that absolutely adore me. I guarantee it. There are people on this podcast that are like, holy shit, this guy is my kind of guy. And there are other people on this podcast going, how the hell did he get on this show? I can't even understand what he's saying. Now, there's a third group of people in the planet. And I call those the fence sitters. Now, you've dressed up your copy and your text so eloquently to capture everyone. You've got photoshopped pictures where you look a bit slimmer and debonair. You're writing words on your pages that you could never even pronounce, let alone spell. You are confusing people. And people are like, I don't get this guy. There's something not right. And that's when that gut, do you remember I said to you, fight or flight, the bush? In that stomach, they're like, there's something funny about this guy. I'm not quite, and they become confused. And no one confused will ever give you that credit card. So for me, I decided, right, this is me. I drink old fashions, mildly inappropriate, ride motorcycles, adore black t-shirts, love pit bull dogs, stand for me, and want everyone in the planet to prosper. And if you want to play with that person, here I am. But if you don't, we'll all be fine. But by being crystal clear with who you are, you don't allow people to sit on the fence. And so you don't allow for that confusion.
Yeah. So
in today's world, are you creating your own confused community?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I know you have a story that I've heard you tell before, relating to that experience of your picture in Monaco, where you were, you had the suit on. Do you want to tell that really quickly?
I had a deal with this little car company called Ferrari, and I had to throw some parties in Monaco. Now, I've ridden around on 2 wheels since I was 15 years old. I don't have a car today. I have a collection of motorcycles. Now, I hope I'll always be on 2 wheels. But I got this gig with Ferrari, and someone said to me, I don't even remember their name. It was one of these insignificant people that was always in the bar that I was in, said to me, oh, I hear you got this gig with Ferrari. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're going down to the parties like that? Because I was always in jeans and a t-shirt with a motorcycle helmet. It's how I travel. And I suddenly, and I don't know why, but I suddenly listened to him. And I thought, hang on, I'm going to be down in Monaco with the richest people in the planet in a black t-shirt and jeans. How dare I? So I went out, I bought a classic Ferrari, a Ferrari Dino 246. I bought a bunch of suits. I bought an expensive ass watch. It was an Audemars Piguet limited edition Royal Oak offshore. Had a custom face on it with my logo on it. And I went down to this party going, yep, I got all the trinkets now. I got the Ferrari. I got the tailor-made suits. I got the expensive. And I went down to this party. And it felt uncomfortable on me because it wasn't me. It wasn't how I showed up. And I was there, I was in this party, and I was on this yacht. And this was back in 1997, the 50th anniversary of Ferrari. And I was at this bar with two of the largest film stars in the planet at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, because they were doing all the Terminator and Rambo and stuff like that. These were the two biggest action heroes in the planet. And I'm at the bar having a drink with them, and someone took a picture. They were both in like a short sleeve t-shirt and a short sleeve shirt. And I'm done up like I'm, going to some kind of fancy dinner. And I got this picture and I suddenly realized I wasn't at that party. This freak, this guy that dressed up, and it really upset me. I got very violent about it because I realized for the first time in my life, I had listened to someone insignificant that directed my opinions and my direction in life. And I did all of this for a guy that I can't even tell you what his name is. And so I put the suits in the cupboard, never did wear them again, sold the car and hopped the watch for a motorcycle. So I got rid of absolutely everything. And I always said to myself, the one thing that is never for sale is me. And so I went about it like that. And in fact, the funny thing was, I'd gone to these parties dressed up in these suits. And then the last time I actually turned up in a black t-shirt, and a bunch of people started talking to me that hadn't spoken to me before, because people can sense when you're not being you. Now, I hadn't changed as a person, but I was now a fake, because I wasn't the kind of guy that would normally wear that watch. Normally, I haven't got a watch on here, I wasn't that person. And that's what's important today. People, your eyes can see stuff and your ears can hear stuff, and you can't trust either, because we got CGI, we got AI, we got all of these things now. But your gut is really, really powerful. And when it doesn't trust something, it tells you. Trust your gut. Don't trust your eyes. Don't trust your ears. Trust your gut.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. And it kind of all ties together. Maybe it's you show up online in a way that you think other people want to, see you or hear you, or you dress in a way that you think others will approve of you, when it really comes down to that authenticity, that just, realizing that, hey, there's going to be some fence sitters that'll fall the other way towards hating me, but I'm going to push those people towards, loving me, the ones who haven't decided yet if I'm more truly myself.
100%. There's enough. How many people are in the planet? Something billion, and if you imagine that, I don't know, 10% of the planet loves you regardless, that's enough to buy a small village. So don't worry about it. Don't stress it. If you upset somebody, then they were never meant to be in your tribe. And I've noticed a lot, and I speak and I say what I think, and I get some haters. And I've noticed one thing: poor people are very noisy. And when I say poor people, I'm on about poor financially, poor mindset, poor opportunities. They're the whingers, they're the excuse people. They're like, oh, stick to your lane. Oh, he's above his station and stuff like. Who the hell is there to tell you that you're above your station? Everyone should be better than they were yesterday. But hey, poor people are happy to settle. And that's something that I'm not willing to accept.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Really appreciate the time you've shared so far. Amazing insights. Just want to sort of wrap up with, I know you talk a lot about branding, and that word gets thrown around all the time these days. Mm-hmm. What is real branding to you, and why is it important?
So branding is the conversation people have when you're no longer in the room. And the daft thing is, whether or not you like branding, hate branding, believe branding exists or not, you've been branded. Okay. You need to understand how much in control are you of your brand. If you look at, like, I'm at Steve D. Sims everywhere. If you look at my Instagram, if you look at my TikTok, if you look at my Facebook, I'm the same person absolutely everywhere. I do not give you a millimeter to conjure up a different impression of who I am, which makes it very easy for you to make that checklist tick as to whether or not You are Camp Steve or you're not Camp Steve. I want to make your decision as easy as possible. I wish branding was a business that didn't exist. I really do, because branding is about breeding and distributing who you are, what you stand for, to make it easier for that person to make a decision. Well, here's the daft thing. Shouldn't we not naturally be like that? Shouldn't we naturally be able to turn up in a bar and go, hey, how's your day? It's pretty shit. Thanks for asking. But a bunch of stuff went to hell and high water this morning, and I'm just recovering, and I just want to get shit-faced and have a couple of dirty jokes. Can you imagine if someone said that to you in a bar when you asked the question? Now, here's the daft thing. What would your reaction be if someone actually answered you that way when you said, how's your day going?
It would immediately endear me to them because the automatic answer is, oh, it's good. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. See, people like, I don't like the word authenticity, but I do like the word transparency. Okay. People want to know, what are you after? What do you want? And I just told you I've had a really bad day and I just want to sink a few drinks. So I've been very transparent about why I'm here. If I turned around to you and I said, I've got some big money problems at the moment, I'm hoping this networking party is going to generate a few good clients. I'm really good at network marketing and Facebook adverts. So I'm hoping to get a couple of good clients out of here. Now, you may not be my client, but again, you know why I'm there. And so it's not kind of like, oh, hey, you look great. How are you? You start becoming suspicious, don't you? So I believe today the branding should be a word that we don't use. I think that every person in the planet should be honest and transparent, even when the shit's going to town. And I reckon that would make for a much better conversation, because today, with us having a break in so many conversations with COVID and socials, today as human beings, again, we just want to connect.
Yeah, so important. Well, Steve, awesome. This has been an amazing conversation. I know the people watching and listening are going to get a lot out of it. Anything else you want people to know about you, want to share, anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I've already said I'm at Steve D Sims. Don't forget the D for Dashing, and there's only one M in Sims. But hit me up on Instagram or something and just tell me that you heard about me on this podcast. I've already mentioned Sims Distillery, so I'm not going to label on any of that stuff. But I believe today is a tough period of time. I believe we're losing the ability to communicate. We're also getting scared. We shouldn't, but we're getting scared about AI. You may win the occasional punch-ups, but when you are part of a good tribe, you can win the war. So I think in today's planet, you need to focus on getting people around you, getting a good community around you, and getting a good support mechanism.
Yeah, I love that. It comes back to the idea of connecting, right?
It always does, and it always will.
Yeah. Steve, awesome. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And maybe we'll have you on again soon. Thanks.
All the best. Thank you.